Welcome to MillionDollarUniversity.com. We make millionaires. My name is Greg Mazzello, founder of a company called Proforma, and of course, your head dean over here at MillionDollarUniversity.com. You know, it's interesting to me that I think most of the lessons I learned in school had nothing to do with my becoming successful and wealthy. And that's why MillionDollar.com kind of exists, because I think people need to think about how to become wealthy. You know, in school we learned, how do you become a biologist? Not that I learned that, I was horrible at it. How do you become an accountant? How do you become a nurse? How do you become a finance person? How do you become an engineer? Or whatever. But there's no class that teaches you how do you become wealthy. Because no matter what industry you look at, no matter what career you look at, there's people earning millions doing it, and there's people earning nothing doing it, right? And so it isn't learning how to do it, it's thinking differently. It's learning how to become wealthy. And I think one of the key concepts about becoming wealthy is, what are you doing? Are you doing wealth building activity? Or crazy building activity? You know what I mean? Are you doing the stuff that's going to make you wealthy, or are you doing the stuff that's going to make you crazy and postpone success? Now, I mostly know about business development. I mostly know about selling. At Proforma, our franchise owners sell printing and promotional products as distributors. A very simple business model. We don't own equipment, we don't own retail stores, we don't own inventory, and we have almost 38% gross profit at Proforma. It ought to be illegal. And yet, there's wealth building work for our franchise owners to do and postponing success work. I call it $500 an hour work versus $20 an hour work. And $500 an hour work at Proforma, if I could describe it to you, is only four things. Getting new customers, selling more to the customers that you have, hiring managing salespeople, and buying out your competition. That's it. Those are the wealth building activities. Everything else, sourcing vendors, pricing vendors, delivering quotes, dropping off samples, picking up proofs, doing the accounting, the billing, the accounts payable, writing checks, talking to bankers, figuring out what IT system to run your company on, they'll all drive you crazy. They'll make you exhausted, leaving you with no time and no energy to go out and focus on business development, which will make you wealthy. And so our first challenge at Proforma to all of our owners is to keep track of how much $500 an hour work are you doing, wealth building, versus $20 an hour work is just wasting your time and postponing success. Now, let's drill down hard. Selling stinks. It just does. Can we all be honest with each other? There's all these seminars and webinars that you can go to about how to make selling fun. Hey, good luck with that. I think I'd rather face the facts to say, calling on a stranger, trying to get them to know me, like me, and trust me, and maybe buy something from me or do something with me, stinks, right? Because you're going to get some rejection. Now, why does it stink? It really shouldn't. But it stinks because when we were kids, what was the word we hated hearing the most? When we were a kid, we hated hearing no, right? Our parents said no, our teachers said no, our coaches said no, people we wanted to go out on dates with said no. No, I hated that word. And so now we as business people confuse the rejection and the pain of no from our youth from just the fact that somebody said no, and that no means, no, I'm happy with who I'm buying from, I don't want to talk to you, or no, I don't want to go to work for you, or no, I don't want to sell my company to you, right? It's not personal, it's just business. And yet, no matter who you are or where you are, I know even the most successful people struggle to stay focused on the wealth building activities because they're a little harder than the wasting time activities and the postponing success that's behind your desk. And so here's my challenge to you. It's $1 million secret. It's how I created an almost $500 million company, and it's what I still do. I keep track of how much time did I spend on $500 an hour work. Of course, it's worth a whole lot more now today, but it's what we call it at Proforma, versus how much stuff did I do that was $20 an hour work. It's a little bit easier, but it isn't going to make you wealthy. So keep track of it. Every day, we have a little success system at Proforma, but you can create your own. Every day, just keep track of how much time did you spend on wealth building activities and how much time did you spend on everything else and what were those things. So you can keep track of what you need to delegate so you can get everything out of your way to go get more wealthy. You know, it's interesting. I know if I asked most owners in this industry or sales reps, how much time did you spend last week? Forget last year, forget last month, just last week. How much time did you spend on wealth building activities? Most people couldn't tell me. And that's not a good place to be in, because if you don't know what you're doing to waste your time and postpone success, then you don't know how to fix it. You know, I've met distributors, thousands of distributors in this industry, and they're like, oh, I do $250,000 a year, and what could you and Proforma do for me? And I think, ooh, I just met somebody that's not really been in this industry 20 years. They've been in this industry 1 year 20 times because they learn nothing. They learn nothing. Don't be somebody that learns nothing. Learn how you spend your day. We call that plan, execute, and evaluate. Most people plan. You probably have a to-do list. I call that a do-do list, because if on your to-do list you're not keeping track of what's $500 an hour work versus $20 an hour work, then you're not figuring out what you ought to be majoring in, right? Most people have a to-do list, and that's probably their plan. Most people do probably most of what's on their plan, although let's face it, some people do stuff that wasn't on their plan or their to-do list, and then they write it down, and then they check it off because that feels really good, right? But that's not enough. You've got to plan, you've got to execute, and you have to evaluate. How did I spend my time? And only when we evaluate do we learn and improve. And so let me encourage you to understand the difference between wealth building activities and everything else. Start measuring it and monitoring it so that you can continually focus more on those things that will make you wealthy, those things that will make you a millionaire. Welcome to MillionDollarUniversity.com. We make millionaires. Perhaps you're next.